Right. President Uhuru Kenyatta there and Raila Odinga after giving that statement and shortly after indicating that they'll be releasing a report or a statement to newsrooms that has come in and it talks about some 9 issues that they think are shared issues of agenda that need to be focused on. And the most important bit is that they have agreed, that is Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta, the president, have agreed to form a joint committee, or rather a joint committee to push the agenda of implementing a program to unite the country. And a bit of it is that there will be an office, a joint office that will be looking at that, with and they will retain a retinue of advisors to follow the implementation of that. And there are some 2 officials who've been appointed to establish that joint committee. That is Ambassador Martin Kimani and Paul Mwangi, who I believe is the lawyer for the National Super Alliance. And there will be an official launch of that particular program implementation committee to really get to entrench and implement that. So let's talk about this, and I'm joined by political commentator Mark Bichach. Welcome to Citizen Love It One. And first of all, starting from what the 2 leaders are saying, we have seen Uhuru Kenyatta releasing that statement from the State House indicating how to move forward in uniting the country. We've also seen Raila Odinga with a written statement that he read out at the steps of Harambee House. Does this indicate a process that has been ongoing behind the scenes, or is it just something they decided to come up today?
It is virtually impossible for this to have been decided within the hours which they have met today in the morning. I think this is something that has been in the kitchen for quite a while. It's just that the public has not been made aware of it, but it is obvious that this has been a conversation that's been going on for a while. In fact, even the choice of venue is quite interesting. Let's remember, it's the steps of Harambee House that ushered in the National Unity Government in 2008. So the reality of the matter is this, that this is a historical moment for Kenya. It is a cessation of tensions within our country. It is definitely, what I find very interesting is if you read the details of the statement, they're detailing the issues that really bedevil the nation of Kenya. And therefore, the hope is, in fact, it's not even a hope. You see, the reality is in this country, every time Raila Odinga has put down the demonstrations and put down any form of action against the government and decided to work with government, Kenya has always prospered. So definitely this is a turning point for our country.
But then again, the question would be that we have seen a lot of division. You remember that the symbolic swearing in on the 30th of January, that's just about slightly above 1 month. But now we see this turnaround, but you do not see the leaders, the other principals within NASA. Where is Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, and Moses Wetangula?
Well, you've got to ask where is William Ruto as well. If you're going to ask that question, you've got to ask where William Ruto is. But it's critical for me that they are not there, because this became an issue not about parties. This is not a Jubilee statement. It is not a NASA statement. It is not a political agreement. It is about the future of the country. One of the things that holds true about any situation is we may disagree about the politics, but we can always agree on what is best for the country. And that's what makes this different. Because if you read that statement, whether you are NASA aligned or Jubilee aligned, you have to agree that we have to deal with matters inclusivity. We have to deal with matters tribalism. We've got to deal with matters with how our elections divide us. We've got to deal with devolution. How do we strengthen it? These are things that we all agree on fundamentally as a nation. And this is the kind of leadership that we've been longing for. Because at the end of the day, whether your father and mother live together, the one thing they agree about is your future. They agree about what kind of education you want. They agree about what kind of man you want to be after you grow up. And that's what we are seeing. 2 leaders who've come together, looked 20 years down the line and decided to do the right thing now.
And looking at it, because you've seen that these are the leaders, we have a country that is so divided, especially coming from last year's general election and the divisive repeat election. The 2 leaders, yes, have agreed to work together. What will it take to ensure that all the supporters move with them towards that common direction?
We have a benchmark in history. In 2008, we were not only divided, we killed each other. How did Kenya pull back together? It pulled back together because our leaders pulled together. And this is what we are seeing again. We are seeing a concerted effort on 2 of the most important leaders of our time coming together, regardless of political affiliation, coming up with a document, by the way, that does not serve either side. It does not serve NASA.
Right.
It does not serve Jubilee. And what is key for me is they've not come to discuss positions. There is no discussion about who's taking which seat. Government continues as government. But what is most powerful is both Raila Odinga, in his capacity as a leader of the Kenyan people, is sitting together with Uhuru Kenyatta to come up with a way that is good for either side. Now, what was the division? The division was about tribalism. They've addressed it. The division was about access to wealth. It's been addressed. The division was about devolution and how it is propagated. It has been addressed. Our national ethos, what we believe in as a people, our tabia mbaya is being addressed in this particular thing. And that's what he meant by the software. The biggest issue we have in this country is not that we don't have rules. It's the fact that the software in a Kenyan tells you to overlap when the road is crowded. The software in a Kenyan tells you it's okay to throw out a piece of paper. And they're addressing that. Now, at the end of the day, what do you want in terms of peace? When you're negotiating peace, you want two leaders on two sides to agree on what is best for both sides of the divide. So will Kenya be united? Definitely. Because I beg anyone to differ with the agenda they've put down.
Right, I wish you had more time, Mark, but just before I let you go, is it a coincidence that this is happening just on the same day that the Secretary of State of the United States is coming to the country? You remember that in 2016, August 22nd, during the memorial of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga appeared there with Uhuru Kenyatta, and on the same day, the then Secretary of State, John Kerry, was coming to the country. Is it by coincidence?
If this was a photo op, and that's what I was watching for, is it a photo opportunity? Are they just going to do razzmatazz for the sake of the television cameras and the newspaper? Then I would have agreed with you. I would have said that this is definitely something they're doing for PR. But given the statement that has been signed by both of them, given the length of the speech that Raila Odinga gave, this is not a PR exercise.
Right.
In fact, if it was just for PR, then it would have been to the advantage of Raila Odinga for the Secretary of State to come into the country in the middle of chaos. But the fact that they've given a conclusive statement, a statement that is inclusive of both sides, and signed by the, I don't know whether you saw at the end, it's been signed by the President and the former retired Prime Minister, tells you that this is something that has been going on for a long time. This is not for the cameras, this is not for the Americans, this is for Kenya, and every Kenyan should breathe a sigh and say amen to this particular development in our country.
This is for Kenya. Mark Bichach, thank you so much for joining us on Citizen Live. We'll be taking a short break, but when we return, we'll be talking about other stories happening in the country. And of course, later on, we'll be looking at that statement from State House and Raila Odinga to look at the analysis. But the breakfast.